Although it's quite easy to take a purely humanitarian perspective from the problem that these items afford on the ground, but ultimately they start life, and they're certainly used generally as from a military perspective. So it's at the same time a humanitarian perspective and a disarmament perspective. So it's important that that all concerned elements are able to have a forum to discuss things informally and formally, and hopefully come to mutually agreed solutions to deal with the prevailing problems on the ground.
Synergies for me is very much like connecting the dots, that has been used the phrase. We have, if you look at it, various dots out there. We have the CCW, we have the Mine Ban Treaty, we have the newly adopted Cluster Munitions Convention. See this as different dots and see how we can create an interlink between those three fora, between the three conventions, which do work in closely related fields. So it makes sense that we work together, that we establish the synergies, use the synergies. It makes sense also in terms of financial interests, because funding is necessary for all the activities we are carrying out. In times of economic crisis, funding will not be limitless. To the contrary, funding is always with big and strong limits. So you need to make sure that the money that is there is used in the best possible and most efficient manner. And for me, it makes therefore a lot of sense to try to establish a lot of synergies.
So indeed, we have three important international treaties that deal with similar subjects. You have the Mine Ban Convention that bans anti-personnel landmines. You have the Protocol on Explosive Remnants of War, which deals with all explosive remnants of war. And then you have the Cluster Munition Convention that prohibits the use of cluster munitions and also requires their clearance. So yeah, we could say, how do these all fit together? And indeed, the way the ICRC describes this is that these are all international humanitarian law treaties, and they deal with weapons that can't stop killing. These three treaties, we believe, are entirely complementary, and it's important for states to adhere to all of them, because the anti-personnel landmines problem won't be solved except by stopping the use, which is the convention does. Also, the problem caused by cluster munitions will get worse and worse unless the weapon is not used, and that's what the Convention on Cluster Munitions does. But of course, there is not going to be a prohibition on all explosive weapons. There will be armed conflict, and then we have to address all other weapons that are used that may pose a threat to civilians after the conflict. And that's what the Protocol on Explosive Remnants of War does. It may be not as specific and legally binding in some aspects as the other two conventions, but indeed it's very, very ambitious in that it addresses such a broad category of weapons used by armed forces. In that way, you could say it's quite unprecedented.
The CCW process, as you see, is a very important process for the international community, as it strengthens the regulation of armed conflict, as well as strengthen principles of international humanitarian law. There are various countries at various stages of development which have to be brought together. Anything which is consensus-driven has a legal validity, has the support of the international community, and it helps in moving the process forward. It goes without saying that if there is consensus, the results will be very good. And therefore, consensus building is essential with regard to all disarmament work in the CCW process.
After the training center, the experts were transported to a nearby shooting range at Erdőkertes. While at the previous day, participants were mainly passive visitors, today this will change, and they can use these tools. At the same time, just several hundred meters away, the EOD experts are preparing the demolition site. Several old ERWs are to be demolished today. Even a large 100-kilogram bomb will be destroyed. Demonstrating the various tools is just the beginning. Getting into the suit takes manpower. Using specialized boots reduces the risk of activating the ERWs on the contaminated ground. After identifying the exact location of an ERW in the ground, the EOD team uses flags to mark the sensitive area. A magnetic detector, supported by a GPS system, can provide a three-dimensional map of the site. Now it is time for some practice. In the meantime, the demolition site has been prepared. Participants visiting the site were given some extra protection. The old ERWs are positioned in the hole. Different types need different handling. After the participants left the site, the prepared ERWs were rigged and then buried. Everything is set up and ready to be detonated. A quick visit to the demolition site serves as the final portion of the workshop.
The CCW sponsorship program is basically a program that is meant to help with the implementation and universalization of the CCW and its protocols. And it gives financial support to countries and individuals to participate in CCW-related activities. What we are trying to do is to get those countries that for whatever reason are not yet participating in meetings or have not even joined the CCW and the protocols as state parties, to become aware of the existence, the importance of the treaty, and of the importance of actively participating in meetings. And if we can give a small contribution by making it possible for those countries to send representatives to those meetings, we are serving our purpose, because the purpose is to widen the participation in the meetings, and in the end, hopefully, to increase the membership of the treaty as such.
A convention may be successful or not, and this depends on a number of different factors. Of course, it depends first of all on the text of the convention, on its provisions, whether they are realistic and sufficiently far-reaching. But it depends also a lot on the states parties, on their active involvement in the implementation of the convention, of its provisions. They are the real master of the process, those on whom the efficiency and the outcome of the process depends. The only way to have your voice heard and to influence the process is to participate. We as Secretariat stand ready to support and advise you in your endeavor.